Today we've got Tristan Heyde, who is the campus pastor at Real Life Church. He, for context, is one of my best friends and a brother. His family is like family to me. But he is the one that recognized things in me that I never saw myself, and has constantly pulled me into higher callings and has challenged me in some incredible ways over the years. And with each challenge, it's unlocked a new part of my faith. And so I appreciate you coming and talking to me today and just sharing a little bit about how you call people up and what some of that looks like and how that's formed in you over the years. So thank you.
Well, first of all, I'll just say it was easy to call that up in you because there's just so much there to call up, and you made it really easy. And so it was one of those moments for us that I think just became a really organic and natural friendship that led to me going like, bro, believe the best in yourself, and do you not see this? And giving opportunities for you to just kind of experience what maybe some of those things I was calling out, whether a speaking opportunity or a video opportunity, come shoot and capture, and then just kind of just see what's really there beneath the surface for yourself, what I saw already at the surface. So you made that really easy. So it also helps when you're, best friends. So
yeah,
it's good.
Well, when you have a close relationship with somebody, you start to see the things that you appreciate.
Yeah.
And you start to want them to share that.
Yeah.
So with that being said, have you always had a mind to call people up? Like where did this take place? How have you developed this over the years?
No, I have not always had that. Actually, I was actually really terrible at this early on. And I would say in my young adult years, I actually was quite the opposite of calling people up. I really had some self-deprecation, like just pulling people down to the muck and mire with me made me feel better. And so I actually had the quite the opposite effect in my younger years, and it's not always been natural. So I'd see somebody doing something better than me, and I'd make it a mission to just like pull them down from their pedestal down to my level because it made me feel better about it. Like that's just terrible, right? Yeah. But this is in some ways some BC, right? Before Christ really doing a deep work in me. And then, you just start to see life giving you opportunities to show a different version of yourself. And we can get into some of that, but no, the simple answer is no, it has not always been natural. And it actually took some real refining from the Lord before I realized what he did in me. I wanted to see that take place in other people. So
until recently, did you even recognize that this was something that you were doing?
No, honestly, I would say that probably became natural as the opposite of what maybe some redemption as what I wanted to see happen from like the junk and the hurt and the pain that I caused other people and the pulling down of other people. I wanted the opposite of the way that made me feel. The way that Christ made me feel when he redeemed my life, it kind of just became a natural like redemption story. Part of what Christ maybe allowed me to go through so I could see what the opposite of that would be in people. And so it really was just Christ doing a work in me that started to come out in people naturally. And then once I realized, oh, that's leadership. Like, it was like, oh, let's get intentional about that. Then became the books, the podcast, the conversations with other pastors and leaders going like, how do I do this to the best ability? And I'm still not the best by any means. Like I always mess up, do something wrong, but it's a learning opportunity. And I think over the years, what I found is you can call something up in someone, you can see something in someone, you can say something, what you see and call it up. And then sometimes it's not what they want. And, but the whole point is that you are believing the best and seeing purpose and value in someone and saying, I see this, so I'm going to say it. And so when it becomes natural, but also it's something that you can, like, for example, we're out on a bike ride and I'm like, bro, why don't you just come be a youth leader? And you're like, no, I have no desire. And I'm like, no. Because what I saw was not necessarily you as a youth leader. What I saw was as an opportunity for you to get to use these giftings in a space that was safe for you to fail and succeed. And plus it was with me, right? And so it's part of that. But yeah, I wouldn't say it was natural until it became natural. And then it became something I was like, oh, I'm doing that. So
I've seen this as over the years as a shared trait between you and Shannon. And she's also really, really good at it. Do you think that has helped you over the years? Like,
yeah.
I know she's a huge lift in all the things. But
Understatement.
having a partner that is also really good at galvanizing, seeing the best, recognizing the best in people, and then calling them up. Is this something that like you guys have even talked about sharing this trait?
I would say definitely in this new role, obviously, for the 6 years that we were students pastors, that was just like we were loving our youth leaders and loving the students that God had put in our life. And we were trying really hard to lead these leaders and do that together. But in some ways, that was my job, and she was a part of it. But we had young kids, and so like they couldn't come late on Sunday night. And it was just this weird like separation. But stepping into the campus pastor role, we're not doing everything together. She's my assistant or boss. I don't really know at this point, but
both.
We're getting things done,
Yeah.
right? But with that, we're doing things in tandem. We're having meetings together. We're calling people up together. And now it's this beautiful picture of getting to go like, hey, what do you see in them? I see this. Oh yeah, I see that too. Let's meet with them and let's talk with them and let's call that up in them. And it's kind of become really cool because it's not something we're doing separately, but we're getting to do it together, and it only fuels that gifting that God has put in us to see things in people. But then now when it's coming from a couple to a couple or a couple to an individual, it's going, oh, two people, leadership in my life, see something. This must be something, And Shannon's a strong discerner, right? She'll be like, hey, there's something there. We should go a little deeper. We should have a conversation. Or there's something just a little off. And so we'll dig. And someone will be like, yeah, I've been struggling with this. And I'm like, okay, I wouldn't have necessarily caught that, but Shannon would. So then I get to coach that, call that, and then call something up in them, but sometimes call something out in them, right? And so it's been a cool navigation together, partnership, because God is truly honoring that as we honor each other. So
yeah, absolutely. You said you started to recognize it as like a leadership trait and diving deeper and all that. But before you recognized it as a leadership trait, was there a moment where God was like, hey, I've put people around you and you started to do this like subconsciously or through a God prompted?
Yeah. So I'm going to ask a different question, I guess, with that, or answer it in a different way. Like for me, it wasn't until a moment that someone took a chance on me when I was younger that I realized how powerful someone seeing something in someone when they didn't deserve it, when they weren't ready for it, when they were at their lowest. For me, I was at my lowest point. And don't have time to get into that whole story, but I really had made a wreck of my life. And yet someone still saw a glimpse of something in me that was worth calling up and calling out. And they did that. And I messed up over and over again, and they had to call me up and call me out, call me up and call me out. But those moments were going, but they never gave up on it. Yeah. They kept leaning in. They kept seeing the value and calling up the value, calling up the purpose. And for me, that guy was Jeremy. He was a youth pastor at my home church, and he saw this in me as a broken, hurts, habit, hang-up individual, like wrecked, and gave me a chance to come within his, surrounding influence and be developed. And he called these things up in me, and I'm going like, why would you give me a chance? And he saw something. And I thought, if my story can be redeemed, what could God use through my testimony to help see that in other people and redeem it? And so it kind of just became this natural part. But it all started because someone saw something in me, called something in me, and gave me a glimpse of hope. And I just thought, man, if God can do that for me, surely God can continue doing this for other people. So Lord, give me eyes to see, give me ears to hear how you see people, not how Tristan sees people. And that was really the shift. But then it became a journey with that.
Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. To speak towards that and galvanizing and calling people up and noticing these things, I mean, this stemmed, whether you know it or not, from a conversation we had the last time we got coffee, to where we were talking about outlets and all the things, and you said, hey, I miss hearing from you.
Yeah.
I miss hearing what God's put on your heart and what you're experiencing. And I said to you that like I felt like my voice had been taken away.
Yep,
that like
I remember
the words I had don't matter, hold no weight, and I was living in this little pocket of just like the enemy had worked so hard to diminish what I had to say.
Yeah.
And here we're having a conversation, and God put you in a place to say, from a trusting source, said, hey, I miss hearing from you. And so I that just made me think, like, has those moments ever surprised you? Like where all of a sudden you're sitting in a conversation and you're like, I need to say this. I need to call this out. I need to call this up.
Yeah, definitely. There's been times I thought just getting together for a cup of coffee could just be like, hey, we're just catching up. And then somebody just says something, and I'm going like, no. Like that's the enemy has lied to them, whispered lies, or truths about what the world has said about them, or failures or whatnot have started to become the reality for them and has crushed them. And I'm going like, no. And I feel the Holy Spirit just saying, this is your moment to lean in. And so I'm going like, hey, what's been going, like, why haven't you been, sharing videos? Why haven't you been capturing? It's your passion. Why haven't you been, sharing devotionals? Or, I would say that, I'd given many opportunities for you to get to preach messages, right?
So many.
And so, I think, for me, there was always a creative nature that came with your unique sermons, teachings, small group leadings, all those things. And then obviously stepping out of that role, that opportunity disappeared in some ways, but I never expected it to stop. I just figured you just shifted your outlet. And so then when you didn't, I was like, dude, don't stop. Like,
and I literally kept saying, it's coming.
Sure.
It's coming.
Sure.
It's coming. It's coming. But in reality, it wasn't. Yeah. I was stalling and stalling. And
honestly, as a friend, I should have recognized it sooner and not waited so long. But I, again, that's just life, right? But an opportunity arose. Holy Spirit spoke, and I said, I'm just going to say the hard thing and just say like, dude, I miss your voice. And the real reality is that I didn't know what could come from that. You took that information and God did stir something. So it was the Holy Spirit, but sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's just the pizza we ate, right? Like the night before, and it's like, hey, I'm feeling this. But I think my thing is I try to be really careful because, hear me, you hold the weight of a pastor, right? The title, and people take that as when you say something over someone, they're like, well, the pastor told me that I...
Yeah.
And so I have to be really careful of that. If I look at someone and said, no, you got a calling on your life, they're going like, they heard from God that I'm supposed to be a preacher, a missionary or whatever. I was meeting with a young adult yesterday, and we meet monthly. And one of the things that I had talked about was, hey, a year and a half ago or whatever, we were sitting, you were looking into real estate, you were mowing lawns, you were like getting it, like going after just saving up money and going after a business, working hard, grinding it out. And I looked at him and said, you were meant for so much more than that. You have no idea. And he grew up in a pastor's home, right? A family, a church ministry family. And he thought, that's not for me. And I just saw right through that just lens of whatever it was just a persona that came up, a shield that came up, a defense. And honestly, I just said, nope, I'm seeing through all of that and what God has actually put in your heart. And if it's for you to just be a strong business person that knows the Lord and leads that ministry, great. But God has put ministry within you, but maybe it's not within the church walls. Maybe it's somewhere else, but there's ministry within you. And I called that out in him. And now he's interning for Pastor Adam. A year and a half later going, and I was saying, I laughed and I said, did you ever think our Starbucks meeting would turn to these people starting to call things up in you and now you're Pastor Adam's intern? Like, that's incredible. What an opportunity. And so, now, that internship's coming up to an end, and now I'm just praying like, okay, Lord, what's next for him? Yeah. Same for you. It's like, hey, okay, what could this be? And now we're sitting here on a podcast and going, this is cool. This is awesome.
Well, I'm a production guy, and so I kind of put things into production terminology. And so my next thought was, is there a lens or a filter that you view people through that is a character trait of God. Like a lot of the times I approach a lot of my stuff, my devotionals, my writings, just in the character trait of like, how is God loving through this? And so I just didn't know if there's something that you consistently see people through.
Number one, in our Heyde house, okay, we have some values. We love God, and that's going to be evident in the way that I wake up in the morning and spend time with the Lord first. And I'm not saying that because I'm a pastor. No, that's because people in my life have said, don't neglect that. And I've just learned from that. I've also learned from life that when you don't give God the first, the rest of your day is set up for failure already, right? So give him the first, and you're setting it up for success. So love God, and then everything else overflows from that. And so the next thing would be to love people. Well, if I love God so much, I can't help but love the people that he has created in the eyes and the ears and the way that he has. So he hears their hearts. He sees them how they're meant to be seen. And so when I love God, I also love who he loves. And then, so we love God, we love people. And then we choose joy, right? We choose joy. And when you're choosing to be joyous in even a down situation, it's hard not to just feel the love of God through all of that, right? And so then it carries over into other people. That's contagious. But the bigger piece there is that we believe the best. And so when Will and Amy are at odds and something is stolen, from their room, and they're playing with someone else's toy, to say, no, hey, let's believe the best here. Did they mean to say that? Did they mean to do that? No, we're going to believe the best in our family about each other because we love God and we love each other, and we're going to believe the best. But then the choosing joy there is like, no, let's not be upset about it. Let's choose joy. And then the last one is to be generous, right? Well, generous can be with our finances, but it can also be with our time and efforts and things like that. And all that comes from our love for God. So it's really easy to love who he loves when you've said, Lord, I love you. Help me to love who you love. And sometimes that's loving even the person that's unlovable. That's really tough, but it gives you compassion. It gives you empathy. It gives you a sense of just seeing, my eyes are literally seeing you how God sees you. And so going into those conversations, it's similar to that. Going like, I see you as God sees you, as a child of God, as someone who has purpose and value. And so it's really easy to pull that out when you're going like, no, this is what God would say about you. Scripture says this. And so I don't know if that answers your question in that sense of like loving people is easier when you're absolutely in love and in relationship with God, because then you have a love for people the way he loves people. Yeah.
Galvanizing can get exhausting at times.
Yes.
Because you're constantly pouring out. You're constantly like pouring into people. Mm-hmm. How do you stay on top of it? How do you stay on top of that exhaustion? How do you recharge, refuel? I know you're in the Word all the time. Sure. And that is part of it. But is there things that Tristan Heyde has to step out and go do to just kind of come back to center?
Of course. Because in the end of the day, Tristan Heyde is a person, not a pastor first, right? I'm a child of God, not a pastor first. And so every person has been designed by God to be filled up by him, but we're depleted by the world. And so just even in this last month, I found myself in the physical, emotional, and mental buckets of life just dry. And I'm sitting here going like, I'm literally on the verge of tears for no reason. I am emotionally just quick to, want to react. The fruit of the Spirit was diminishing and fading. And a pastor, yes, I know, but I'm human. That's just a title. It's just my occupation, right? But as a believer, that wasn't okay. So I have a safe place in the woods, and I'm not refreshed and recharged by the beach. I need to get alone in the woods, and I like to call it disconnecting from the world and connecting to God. And that means just shutting off my phone, getting alone with him, hearing his voice. And so for me, when I'm feeling those draining, pouring out seasons, there are moments that you have to disconnect and reconnect so that way you can continue pouring out. So he's the source of life, right? And as the source of life, you can't expect to be poured into if you're not spending time at the source. And so for me, I was like, I got to disconnect from everything else, the world, and go spend some time at the source. And so for me, I do that regularly. But once a month, that is a regular thing that It may not be a whole day in the woods, but it may be a couple hours in the woods, just spending some time journaling, asking God, what do you want to say to me so that I can go lead other people, galvanize people full and not depleted. But that requires effort, and it really does.
Yeah, and an understanding of yourself
Yes.
to recognize when the fruits of the Spirit are starting to diminish and that you're not who you normally are.
Yeah, if you're quick to snip at someone, I'm quick to snip at you. I'm like, ooh, man, that'd be weird because
never
no,
happened.
yeah, right. But it's quick to snip at you or do something or be frustrated with you. I'm like, oh, okay, something's off here with Shannon. That's not good. Parenting. You can't come home from a long day of work and then just snip at the kids and be so poured out on all the other ways that you have nothing left to give your family, because that's the first ministry, first of all. And so, like, for me, it's like, I'm in the gym now, like, regularly, to the point of going, like, if I miss that, I feel that. And if I'm not going to the woods to spend some time just disconnecting and connecting, I feel that. Because the emotional, mental bucket, it's constantly being drained. The physical, if you're not eating well, if you're not sleeping well, if you're not, regimenting your body to just be stronger, more just ready for whatever is thrown at it, well, you feel that. And when you don't feel good emotionally, mentally, and physically, well, it's just things are off. But honestly, the only way that you get charged to lead other people, to disciple other people, to galvanize other people is to spend time at the source spiritually, and then that bucket or that part of your life overflows into the rest of the buckets of your life, and you're walking around with full buckets going like, I see this in you. I see that in you, and I can pour out here. But I'll just tell you, yeah, there are seasons, like even today, I spent some extra time with the Lord because some hard conversations that were depleting. And I'm going, and anytime I have a depleting conversation that can be a little heavier, I say those are times to lean in a little bit more. So Pastor Adam, he texted me one week when there's just some hard conversations, and he said, hey, what are you doing to spend a little extra time with the Lord? I'm talking like disconnecting, putting on some extra worship music, some extra scripture, some extra time just talking to him, or even in silence, being filled back up. Because every time you pour out, you need to fill back up at the source. And if we don't do that, just as people, followers of Jesus, as children of God, well, then we're going to constantly find ourselves frustrated, the fruit of the Spirit diminishing. And so I think that goes for everyone, but specifically in leadership, specifically in people who are calling up things in other people, galvanizing. You have to be full to be able to pour out and love other people well.
Yeah. I know there's people sitting out there listening to this that are galvanizers, and they haven't recognized that yet. And so they have this character trait, and they haven't really developed it or leaned into it.
Yeah.
They're in a stance to where they're like, I don't want to call people up. I can do it myself. I can do this. And they're experiencing a certain level of frustration because they don't know that they are a galvanizer, which is a huge thing to be for the kingdom.
Of course.
But what's something, looking back on your own walk, your own journey through, recognizing yourself as a galvanizer, what are some indicators? What are some things that like somebody out there listening could recognize in themselves and be like, oh, I'm fighting tension and the enemy's keeping me from being the galvanizer that I am?
Yeah. Well, if you want to help build the kingdom successfully, you can do that by doing all the work yourself. Burning yourself out, burning the candle at both ends, and every night laying your head on the pillow and going, I am exhausted. Great. But if you want to go, I'll just tell you, you'll burn out. But if you want to go far in ministry, bring someone along with you that not only takes the ministry further and probably better, because I'll be honest, you're talented in many ways, but you're also not good at certain things.
Galvanizing.
There you go. And so for you, there would be things that are just constantly a frustration for you to do. But there are people in your life that would be like, but that's my passion. So when you bring someone along with you like that, that's their passion. Now the kingdom is built in a greater way because two people are operating in their passions. That's what galvanizing looks like. If you're working in a constant frustration of things, you're only going to be able to take what God has given you this far. And honestly, I would just say, if you're not galvanizing and you are a galvanizer and you just keep doing all the things yourself, you're honestly not stewarding what God has given you to the greatest advantage.
Yeah. So what you're saying is actually we're all galvanizers.
Yes.
We just need to recognize where we're running through tension and then find somebody who loves where we find that tension.
Correct. Jesus spent time with the disciples, right? And they still got it wrong. But then they took that ministry, and then there were other people that would come along, and we don't hear about all the people who were influenced by the disciples, influenced by Jesus, influenced by them. But there were other people coming along, and then they were going like, hey, you could do it. One of my favorite stories about galvanizing is this, and it's kind of leading from the back. And that's the greatest success of a galvanizer, is because you lead from the back and your hands aren't even on it. And people are like, well, that's just lazy. No. That's empowering other people to their purpose. And so it's Jesus feeding the 5,000. It's my favorite.
Yeah.
And so Jesus is sitting there. He's like, hey, look at all these people. Look, man, it's getting late. You probably should feed them. Go feed them. And he's like, how are we going to feed all these people? There ain't no Chick-fil-A. There's no Burger King. There's no McDonald's. This isn't a quick thing. How are we going to just come up with all this food for all these people? And they find this boy, right? And the boy brings it to Jesus, and they have this basket of fish and bread, and Jesus blesses it, multiplies it. And instead of Jesus then going like, fine, let me just handle this. Again, over and over again, he first sends them out to go figure out, hey, go find out, go feed them. Well, then they come back and they say, well, we ran into a problem. Okay, well, what's the solution? Again, they come back. Then he hands them the baskets full now and says, now you go feed them. Jesus could have went and fed every one of those people, but instead he said, no, I'm going to bless it. Now you go do the ministry. And so sometimes it looks like walking it out with people, even when it's not all the way flushed out yet, but then continually handing it off and helping hand it off, because eventually then they're going like, I got to be a part of that. And it builds something up in someone. Even if it was only at this level, you're like, yes, but now look how much further we were able to advance the kingdom, because multiple hands were involved and passions were involved and talents were involved. And so everyone's a galvanizer. Everyone has an opportunity to bring someone alongside. Here's the deal. You're really great at video producing. I'm going to be honest. I know iMovie, right? So like,
I will say, you did a lot, though, in the students' ministry. You pulled off a lot of really good tricks.
Well,
and you did it.
We made it happen.
Well.
We made it happen, but it wasn't Colby quality. I'm just honest. You have an eye for things. You have a way to just see things and capture things in just this beautiful storytelling way. And I can't do that. That's not my gifting and talent. And I'm like, yeah, throw up your iPhone, capture it, and let's move on, right? And it's just that's not. There's something to it. But to bring someone alongside you, there might be a way that you can still galvanize a portion of what that process looks like. That is a frustration for you and going, but that's their talent. So every person, no matter what they're doing, what their job is, what their status is, whatever, you can galvanize someone to their purpose by just coming alongside you to build the kingdom. So, I'm not a basket weaver. That would be a frustration for me. But someone may be a basket weaver that and you go like, you should basket weave. And it's a really crazy example, but you should basket weave and sell those and then give the money to kingdom builders. And they're like, I could do that? Yes, you could do that. I mean, give any example, but anybody could galvanize somebody to step into purpose, to fulfill something in them, to feel like they're being a part of building the kingdom. And it just takes effort.
Yeah. Have you seen galvanizing show up in how you've raised your kids?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, even on Sunday, man. Like we're setting up and tearing down at the campus, right? But we're there early. And William's coming alongside and he's wanting to be with me. And I'm like, here's a vacuum, vacuum. I want you to be a part of this. And so he's excited. He's like, Dad, when I get there on Sunday, do I get to vacuum? Yes, you get to vacuum. And so then this last Sunday, we got 2 vacuums. Now, Amy and William, they're running around the auditorium vacuuming everything. And I'm just like, this is what it looks like. It doesn't have to be giftings and talents. It can sometimes just be putting effort into a part. For us, we say creating a place people love so they can experience a loving God. That means clean floors. Well, did it take talent to vacuum? No. You click a thing and you push it back and forth, right? But they got to be a part. But that was me galvanizing my kids to just get to be a part of what we're doing. And even at home, if there's a family in need or something like that, my kids have an abundance of clothes or an abundance of toys, honestly, because we just kind of have this large group of friends that we're all sharing our stuff around. And it's like, so if somebody does come up in need, we're like, hey, pick out a toy, pick out some clothes, let's give it. we're instilling generosity, but I'm galvanizing them to be generous, and I'm galvanizing them to help to be a part of this thing. And so sometimes I go to the hospitals, and if I know it's one that William can handle, I'll take him with me, and I'd be like, "Hey, bud, why don't you pray?" And so one of the most beautiful pictures was we had a gentleman on the prayer team, Kevin, and it was the last couple of days of his life, and I took William with me, and it was painful for him to see that he was passing, but he said, "Dad, can I go with you, and can I pray for Mr. Kevin?" Yeah. And so he went, and he held Kevin's hand in that bed, and he said, "Dear Jesus, I just pray that you would just give Kevin peace." And so William got to go. I got to galvanize it. And that word galvanize, empower, equip, hand off ministry, whatever. But I got to help hand that off to William, and William got to be a part of something. And it was a beautiful picture of just seeing, it doesn't have to be this big orchestrated. It can just be something simple. You're handing off and empowering someone else to do something. Yeah. So, my kids love it.
Absolutely. Before William came, where were you spiritually, and how has that kind of changed through William and Amy?
Well, number one, I would say, for Shane and I, we were married for a couple years of no kids, and we wanted to start a family off pretty quick. And there was about 3 years that we were just saying, "Hey, we're ready. Let's have kids. Let's go for it." And we couldn't have kids. And it was everyone around us was having kids. Everyone around us kept getting pregnant, and it was kind of devastating. And so it actually put us in this weird kind of a funk with the Lord of going like, we were pastoring another church before we ever came to Real Life. And it was this weird funk of just going like, Lord, are we not chosen to be parents? Like, it was a tough wrestle. And during 21 days of prayer, we had given that to the Lord, and we really felt like the Lord said, "If you never have a child, am I still worthy?" And it was a painful moment of surrender, but I really believe the Lord did a deep work in me and in Shannon for him to be more than enough, worthy enough to receive our praise, even if that would never happen. And we came to grips with that. We said, "Yes, Lord, you are enough. So would you do it, work in us? Would you heal my heart?" And actually, I was on a journey at that time, just some bad hearts in my family that the Lord had really put into me. He said, healthy heart spiritually, healthy heart physically. And that was one of those prayers I prayed, "Lord, I want your heart for my family, for the church, for life. And even if that means I never have a physical child myself, you're still more than enough, and I need to get that right in my heart, that I'm not going to be angry with you, I'm not going to resent you, and I'm not going to resent other people every time I see a new pregnancy announcement." And so day 22 of 21 days of prayer that year, we found out we were pregnant with William. And so there really was this shift in us that before kids, we were wrestling a lot of just hurts, habits, hang-ups from our past of not being married long and carrying some of that baggage in, and we had to work through some of the separate walks with Jesus into now a marital walk with Jesus and all the things, and then having William, seeing God show up in that. I'm not saying that that's everybody's story or will be everybody's story, but for us, he did a deep work in us that I really believe he held on to that blessing for a little while, so that way when we did receive the blessing, it was out of place of health. And now we're leading of a place of going like every day we're grateful for William. And then we got Amy, and we're like, that's a whole nother story. She's wild. But we are truly, our quivers are full.
Yeah.
And that scripture that says that, it's so true. And we're blessed by them. We're seeing those blessings come out in everything that they do and all their characteristics, that they love Jesus, and they're getting to help build the kingdom with us. But the shift in me from being a dad, before that being just a husband, love is different. Compassion is different. Empathy is different. Discipline for spiritual correction in people and brotherhood, calling up things, seeing it, that all changes because now you see through the lens of how God sees me and how God sees you as a child. And there's just a different level of going, Oh, I get that.
Yeah. We will speak towards discipline in just a little bit, but that message that God had for you, am I enough?
Mm-hmm.
How have you seen that show up in different ways throughout fatherhood? Well,
I never feel like I'm enough as a dad. I never feel like I'm doing enough. The simplest things of like, I'm smoked, I'm tired. And I come home and William says, Dad, play baseball with me. And I'm like, yeah, but I got to do the laundry. I got to mow the lawn. I got to do the things. And Shannon needs me as a husband first, but Will wants me to be with him and play baseball and play catch and, go fishing and do the things in the backyard. And those things are all great. And I need to take time for those things. But the before a dad situation, I changed. I changed for the better because of William. I changed for the better because of, seeing that his need for me to teach him how to be good, how to be God honoring, how to be respectful to his mother. How I treat Shannon is how he'll treat his future wife, how he treats Amy, his sister, how he treats his mom. And all of those things are encompassed in being a father. And I just think, I can't remember the original question now, but, just thinking through the lens of like, there's so much pressure on me to show up and be healthy for Shannon as a husband, but to be healthy as a dad for William, for Amy, because I'm modeling something. What I'm modeling is Christ. They read it in the Bible. They're getting it at church and class. They're getting it from us, but what they're seeing in me has to be Jesus, has to be the fruit of the Spirit, has to be self-control and love and joy and those values that I talked about for our home. I have to live those out. I don't get to just lack on those. And if I do, I hope I have a brother who's going to go, hey, bro, you need to figure this out because your family needs you. So again, I don't remember what the original question was, but I feel like maybe I got some of it.
Yeah. You got what was needed for sure. Some of that tension felt at home. How has it pushed you to seek the Lord more?
Well, I am very weak in self-control, naturally. I'm very weak in compassion, naturally. I'm selfish, naturally. And so unless I'm spending time with God, the counteract of that is not present. So my selfishness goes away when I spend time with the Lord, because then I see selflessness come out through how Christ modeled that. And honestly, when I spend time with the Lord, he disciplines me. He corrects me through Scripture. He corrects me through, Lord, what do you have for me today? Give me listening ears and an obedient heart. And he said, well, the first thing you need to be obedient in is fix your attitude, right? And I'm like, oh, okay, Lord. Yeah, and so like as the Lord corrects me, disciplines me, that's all refining that's happening by spending time with him. And I'll just be honest, I'll go back to that woods story I was telling you about. When I went to the woods, I literally took my journal and I said, Lord, I was just kind of in tears, just saying like, Lord, I want to love Shannon how you love her as a daughter. What am I missing? Because if I were to have future Amy and her future husband come to me and say, as a dad, what ways are you loving Amy, or have you loved Amy that I'm missing here? And if you were to look at me and go, hey, here's 4 ways that I think that you could love Amy better as a husband, would you tell me those? So why wouldn't I ask God, who is Shannon's father, spiritually, to go, how do you see her? Can you help me, Lord, to just... So I wrote down some of those things. Same thing for William. How can I love William the way that you see William? Okay, here's some things. How do I love Amy? Wrote those things down. And so then I've just been taking that journal and just trying to apply those things. But as I spend time with the Lord, I'm better for that.
There's a shift. There's something different when you have a daughter.
Oh,
There's a father mindset. Something is just different. Mm-hmm. And there was a thought or a question that wrecked me here recently. And it was, and this is just pushed into my marriage so much since I heard it. But it was, one day you're going to get to heaven and God's going to ask you, how did you love my daughter?
Wow.
And
wow.
I mean, you want to talk about being right, because now I have a daughter.
Yeah.
And I know how I want my daughter to be loved from me and from everybody around her.
Yeah.
And then I just thought of God asking me, did you love my daughter well? Did you treat her how you should treat your daughter? And we don't get it right. But since then, that statement and that thought has just, every interaction to where I feel myself start to feel tension or start to feel drained or start to, and I start to react in a way that's not godly. Immediately that comes back that like one day God's going to look at me and be like, did you love my daughter well?
Wow. Dude. So I'm going to ask you a question then. 'Cause I've done a lot of talking.
No.
But I'm going to ask you a question and go, so what things do you have in place, or what should you put in place? What should we put in place that if there is a moment that you're going like, you know, I'm snipping, or I'm quick to assume the worst instead of the best, or I'm having just kind of this, like, I am just dragging, like, what do you think we should do? Like, as brothers, as friends, as people?
So there's two parts to this. First is most of my frustration that comes out during daily things with my wife and my kids normally isn't a frustration with them. Normally it's a frustration with me. It's something in the back of my head that's saying, you didn't get that done. You didn't finish that. You should be further along.
Yeah.
You've still got this to do. And instead of letting that thought back here control what is happening in the moment, and I go back to that saying, and then I gut check myself, and I'm like, what am I frustrated with in myself? And then immediately it's like, does that matter?
Right.
No. Okay. So be here.
Yeah.
Love here. Love in this moment. And then the second part to that, and it's something that I dealt with working in the church, and it's something you put in me a long time ago, was the like 5 tiers. You've got God, wife, kids, ministry, and then work, right? And so me being a task-oriented man, and with those frustrations normally being tasks that I haven't finished, I haven't completed, and having a to-do list for the longest time, which when you initially brought this to me, it was all about relationships.
Sure.
But my brain turned it into tasks. So I was feeling so much tension with, I've got tasks that come from God. Yeah. I've got tasks that come from my wife. I have now tasks that comes from my kids, ministry, and then work. And I was looking at it like a giant to-do list.
Wow.
Whereas like, first and foremost, and this was another thing that was brought to me by Pastor David, because I expressed this to him, and he's like, no, you're looking at it through the wrong lens. It's not tasks, it's relationship.
Yeah.
First and foremost, like, where's your relationship with Christ? If that is good, it's going to bleed down that tier, because it's about falling down, trickling down through that tier. So your relationship with Christ is going to bleed into your relationship with your wife, and that should be your second priority. And however your relationship, how healthy or whatever it is with your spouse, is then going to bleed into your children, which is the third priority God has given us.
Absolutely.
And then same thing with ministry, because you should have a personal ministry, and then secular work, whether that's, you know, and I struggled with that a good bit doing church work, because ministry and work were down here, but it was also felt like a God thing.
Yeah.
And so if you are in ministry, you need to find ways to separate your relationship.
Correct.
And stop looking at a task as a task list. Helps.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah.
First and foremost, but separating those things to where like your relationship with Christ comes first, and then that bleeds in. And
That's
so
good.
reminding myself and keeping that in mind, and every day going through, like, my day starts with God, much like yours. And then the next thing is my wife. Normally she wakes up and it's like, what do we got to do? What can we do? And then my kids end up waking up. We're fortunate enough to have kids that sleep through most of it. One's too young to tell yet, but so, and then the day starts to work out in that way. But that has helped me.
No, that's really good.
Recognizing the frustration is me.
Yeah, that's so true.
It's not them.
It's natural pride, sin nature within us that starts to just dwell up. And when we spend time with the Lord, like, obviously he refines us, he purifies us, he heals our broken hearts regularly. So if we don't spend time with him, like, well, then that starts to dwell up, right? And so anyways, I would hope that you'd say something to me, be like, hey, quit being dumb, like that's your wife, or hey, your kids need you more, or and I've given you that free open stuff to say that. But I think the problem is if we don't have those people in our life, iron sharpening iron, like that won't exist, right? That won't exist.
And you have to seek out people that you can trust with the dirt. Seek out people that you can trust.
No judgment. With
like the things that are hurting you.
Yeah.
Because if you can't trust somebody in it, whether it's your wife or whether it's a friend or whether, like, you need to seek out people that you can trust with your hurt and with your baggage, and start the healing process. And if those people aren't there, and if you have people that are in your life that are, not, like, it's okay to reform your friend group. It's okay to
change it up,
to change seasons and look towards something else.
Doesn't mean you don't love them, doesn't mean that you don't care, but there's different seasons of your life that you need poured into differently. Like if every one of your friends right now don't have kids, it's really hard to relate to that. Yeah. Especially when you need to be challenged as a dad. Yeah. Right. And so I don't think there's anything unhealthy about that. I think it's just going, who do I want to be? And who am I modeling after? Who do I need in my life to help encourage the best part of that in me?
Earlier, you kind of hinted at some discipline and healthy discipline. Something I've seen over the years, being a close friend of yours and seeing you're further along in the fatherhood journey than I am. Your kids are older than mine. And so something that I've admired and noticed is how you discipline your family. And I think as a dad, it's a very important subject. And I was just, hoping that you could just express some of the mindset or what God's taught you over the years about a healthy level of discipline in our children.
Yeah. I think Scripture's pretty clear for us. I even just said it for me personally. Like when I spend time with Jesus, there's discipline that comes there. Because spending time with the Father, I learn what needs to be refined in me. And so for our kids, we have those values that I talked about earlier too. So anything that's happening within our family, if it goes against those values, if it goes against God's design for us, that has to be disciplined. Like lying has to be disciplined. Stealing has to be disciplined. Hatred has to be why? Well, because those aren't God's best for them. And it's our responsibility as dads to keep those things in check, because we're helping set the standard for their future. And so discipline is actually very important and very needed. And so that can look different for every parent. But one of the things I would say is it's easy to just ignore the thing that we don't want to deal with. But if we ignore it and we don't deal with it, eventually they're going to have to deal with it. Yeah. And then they're going to go, why didn't my parents help me learn that? Why didn't my parents help me, navigate some of that? So for us, my son, William, is very strong-willed, okay? And his name is Will.
A lot like his dad.
Strong-willed, okay? A lot like his dad? Yeah, okay. So with that comes this natural thing that I see in him as well, is going like, well, you're going to be a leader one day, because you see these things, you go after them, you're persistent, you're dedicated, but he also has this soft servant's heart. And so trying to mesh those two, they're constantly at odds with each other. But there's these moments where it's like, he just won't give up. And it's like, he will literally just drive you to your breaking point. So there's a book called The Strong-Willed Child. And it talks about it gives an example about someone with a dog and disciplining a dog and breaking habits in a dog, that just like a dog needs to know you're alpha. And that sounds so awful when you think about your kids, but they need to know the position in which they are within the family. So for William, he needs to know that I am dad. And if dad says, well, that shouldn't be pushed. Why? Because I'm alpha? No, because there's this respect there. And there's an honor there. And that needs to be taught biblically too, like honor your father and mother, right? But there are certain things that we can harp on because it's our own preference, but make sure that we are actually disciplining the things that will develop the character in them later. For example, being a bad friend. Well, that's not loving people how God would love people. That goes against that, William. So be a good friend. Loving your sister. Loving your sister matters, because you know what? God has given us this family, and you're going to love your sister as God loves your sister. So it's all those things. But when that takes place, it's like, no, hey, we don't talk like that. We don't say that. We don't treat that way. And those things have to be disciplined, and all of them have different categories of discipline. But there have been things where we have said, like, how much do you discipline? How do you discipline this? Well, in some ways, every person has a different form of discipline. We won't get into all those. But different disciplines work for different personalities. And so for my son, one of those things is he's actually reward driven. And so you don't want to just go, well, you're just going to reward him. No, but reward the things that you want celebrated, and then they get repeated. And the things that were being disciplined just fade off. So for example, hey, don't do these things, and there would be some consequence. But then counteracting that for William with a sticker chart of saying, hey, but if you do these things that we want to celebrate and repeat, you get these stickers. And for him, he goes, oh, I can get these stickers. And then at the end of it, I get a toy from the Dollar Tree. Whatever, it's something simple. Or a camping trip with dad, something to be rewarded. He is driven to do that and is driven away from doing the other thing. And so that works for him. Amy is reward driven too, but she also, typically if you just have to say, Amy Michelle, she's like, okay, daddy, and it's it's over. It's she learned. But we're navigating some of that now with her, just her having a little sass and, and just going through that. And so we're still navigating that. We haven't figured it all out, but I just know if you don't discipline, you're setting them up for failure later for things that could be against their character.
The last thing I had was just, how do we discipline out of a place of love and not anger and frustration?
Spending time with Jesus, the fruit of the Spirit, modeled out as if Christ were there. So for example, if I'm just reacting out of anger, well, Scripture says be slow to anger and rich in love. Counteract your responses by squashing it with Scripture. Because if I'm just angry all the time, well, what am I listening to music that's fueling the anger? Am I building myself up physically so I feel good? My emotional tank, my physical, my mental, my emotional, all those buckets, are they depleted? Well, I need to spend time with the Lord, and when I do that, then it overflows into those other things. But if they're depleted, I have nothing left, and then the next thing you know, well, of course I'm going to be angry because my patience level is this much. Well, when I spend time with the Lord, my fruit of the Spirit, it's increased in the way that fruit is coming out. So I know I'm rambling a little bit in some of that, but if you're naturally just angry, question what has been your source, because that anger is coming out from somewhere that you've spent time with something or influenced by something, and it's coming out, or you're just depleted. So figure out your timing. There's margin. You need to create margin in your life that you can have a debrief moment on your way home from work. That was a really bad day of work, but you can't let your kids get the brunt of that, right? And so let's say it's bedtime. Bedtime in our house is just pulling teeth, man. That's just go to bed, right? I need some time. But where I feel that the most is when I didn't get to the gym. When it has been a day that's been run, and you just want to get them in bed so you can just go, oh. But they want extra time to cuddle and extra books. And I'll just say, it's gone like that, right? They grew up like that. I look back, and Ellie's just so little right now, right? Your new fresh little baby girl. She's so little, and I think about that, and I go, Amy was just there. How is Amy so big? Because it's gone like that. And I think of all these little things that time that slipped away, time that I've gone I got too frustrated during that. Was that worth that? So when I'm angry, I just have to question myself and go, what is going on in me? Like you said earlier, that I got to figure out, because they didn't deserve that. Amy did not deserve me to snip at her like that in her cry. And William did not deserve for me to be so hard to him about something so little, spilling a glass of juice. I mess up on that. But those are indicators of going, my short fuse says that I need to go back to the source. And so I would just say, it sounds so cliche, but spending time with the Lord, spending time with a brother going like, hey man, here's what I'm feeling. He's going like, yeah. You're going, hey, yeah, you're right. You're praying for me. You're believing that you're sharing scripture with me. I've also got that off my chest, and I know that you're lifting me up in prayer. I spent time with the Lord, and you're keeping me accountable, right? It's all of those things. But I would also say, like, podcasts are great. Books are great. All of that is fine. But if you're doing that in replace of spending time with the Lord, you'll get nowhere. You'll get nowhere.
Yeah. Even if the podcast is biblical or of a biblical nature, like you're not still having personal time with the Lord. Like
Correct.
that, it should always come first, and the rest should just be supplemental.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that you've left me with before we close is you're not disciplining for the result you want now in the moment. You're disciplining out of a place of love for who you want them to be in the future.
Correct.
And that's something that you've left me with over the years, that anytime I'm like, how is my reaction to my daughter right now? Is it because I want a certain result right now in the moment, or could this be a moment that helps shape who they are in the future,
right,
and how I want them to respond to adversity and correction and those types of things? And so that's a huge lesson that I've taken away from you over the years.
And I've learned that from friends and family and mentors of myself too, like going, yeah, we can either discipline them now for things now, or think further out and go, what I'm correcting now is actually correcting something for the future, because we are going to mess them up by counteracting something that our parents did and saying, well, I don't want to be that, or my grandparents. And then when we do that, we go, well, I'm messing them up in some other way. But the goal is that, do they love Jesus? Do they know the foundations? And when they're older, will they know the word as a foundation? Will they know the truth as a foundation? And that's the goal. Do they know that I love them? Yes. I can't even count how many times I've told William and Amy, I love them. And I'll make sure that they know I love them through actions, through words. And even when I mess up, I'm quick to say sorry. I messed that up. And I ask, not just sorry, will you forgive me? I say that.
Yeah,
and I make them say that
for forgiveness is a huge part in it.
I agree.
Because it teaches them that the mistake or the failure isn't the end of the story.
Correct.
It's just a part, and that there's more to come.
Correct.
And it's not the end of the story.
Yeah. A couple quick references I wanted to give were to a couple books, if that's okay.
Yeah, absolutely.
And those books were to just a couple of parenting books. One, I mentioned it earlier, The Strong-Willed Child. And that one's a really good one if you have a child who's just like really strong-willed and just trying to navigate how to discipline, how hard do you lean in, what does that look like? That's James Dobson. And then Raising a Modern-Day Princess. That's for a little bit older kids, but it's a cool thing just to kind of go, okay, how do I raise a princess, but in a modern world, and what habits and things should I be setting up? And then that they're not entitled, but they are seeing that they are valued and they have purpose, and that how a man should treat them later in life, and things that they should recognize in them as value and purpose. And then Raising a Modern Day Knight. This one's kind of cool. It comes with several things of just going like challenges to give your sons, challenges to lean in on them, and accomplishments that if they hit those, they get these rewards of certain things. And then one other one is Habits of the Household. And this just hits whether you are just a non-parent household, or you have a big family, small family, it does not matter. It hits all the frameworks. And so Habits of the Household, the things that you're developing to develop good household habits. And then the last one, obviously, we know the Bible is a huge factor in this.
Shout out.
But my greatest advice that I ever got was, if you have kids, spend time with the Lord, if able, first thing in the morning, and let your kids catch you reading the Bible and spending time with Jesus, even in the evening. Prioritize that, because if they catch you doing something like that, that's the thing that they'll go, my dad, my mom was faithful at reading the Word, spending time with Him, praying. Let them see you doing that, and let them see you loving each other in front of them. Like, the other night I was kissing Shannon, and Amy goes, ew, but I was watching, and I'm like, you better not be watching, but I also know they're watching, right? And so it was a kiss, but it was like, yeah, because that's my wife, that's your mom, but that's my wife. And it's just little things like that, a hug. And they're like, come play with me. I'm like, no, I'm hugging your mom right now. I'm sitting with your mom. I'm talking with your mom right now. But even some verbiage is, I'm talking with my wife right now. Yeah. I'm sitting with my wife right now. And so they know that there's that my wife before my kids. Your mom is my wife, but that comes before you. And that was a hard lesson for William is I had to tell him one time, like, you're not the most important thing in my life, right? And he was like, what? And I said, no, your mom's relationship with me, that comes before you. And he's like, no. And I'm like, yes. And so I think that's really important. And I don't get that right. I could do more dates. I could do more things to love Shannon better and lead the way in that. But I do think all those things stem from, what does your walk with Jesus look like? What is he saying to you? And how does that overflow into your family and friendships?
One of the most beautiful things we can leave our kids is a Bible filled up with notes.
Yeah.
My grandma, her Bible is
loaded down.
Loaded. And it's something that will mean the world to our family.
Yeah.
Well, Tristan, thanks for just imparting some wisdom on us, and thanks for coming and spending some time with me, and just giving us the opportunity to hear from you and learn some things that God's put on your heart.
Super cool. Thanks for having me. Thanks for letting me be here and share. And hopefully it's helpful for some. And obviously, we get to do this often, but it's kind of cool just to allow other people into our conversations.
Yeah, I can see a little bit of the dynamic.
Mm-hmm.
So for you guys, if you're still watching, thanks for following along. And if there's something that you picked up or something that God put on your heart, share. We'd love to hear it and love to learn from you guys as well. So we'll see you next time.